Welcome back. We're at the Beebout Veterinary Medical Center. Dr. Brandon Beebout and Little Bug.
Little Bug,
And we're
yeah.
talking about the elements. What
Yes.
do we need to be aware of when it comes to the elements?
So with the elements, as we get into summer here, we're here in June, and so the two things that I think of is heat and heat stroke, and then water. You know, we all like going to the lakes. You know, we got Harlan, we got Sherman, we got Johnson. There's Cotton Mill even, and so a lot of folks are going to be going out there. You know, we just had Memorial Weekend, and so we just figured we'd talk a little bit about that as things start to heat up.
Okay.
And so first with heat, heat stroke is actually what I did my senior pathology report on heat stroke. I had a greyhound that was walking around the LSU lakes down in Baton Rouge in June. Very, very hot down there and humid, and he arrived at 110-degree heat. He'd been on that walk 100 times, and so they thought nothing different, but it was one of the first really, really hot days, and it just added up to him, and you know, heavy panting, all that kind of stuff, but then he just kind of continued to go downhill, and they went downhill really, really fast. And so, thank you. And so it is something that is sometimes irreversible, and there's a lot of what we call sequelae, or manifestations from it, and one of the first sequelae is coagulopathy. So we get so hot in our core, we denature proteins, and we lose the ability to clot, so we'll start bleeding in our heart sac, in our lungs, everywhere in the body actually, and it's a devastating little thing. And so prevention, number one, and early recognition, number two. And so as we work our way into June, it's been relatively mild. Mid-70s, wind blowing 45 miles an hour. It doesn't feel that hot. When we get that first day of 90, it's going to feel like 110 to these guys. And so we want to be cognizant of that. And then when we've had 30 days in July of 90 degrees, they'll probably be more acclimated to that kind of stuff. And so we just want to make sure there's shade, make sure there's free access to water. Pugs, boxers, or brachycephalic, short-nosed doggies, they cannot dissipate heat at all. Older Labradors with laryngeal paralysis, we pant is how we dissipate heat. They don't sweat, and so that is their way of doing it, and sometimes they can't get it to the point where they're not going to succumb to something like that. And there's no doubt we see this multiple times a year, but most people are pretty good about it, but we want to make an educational thing about it.
Okay, so that's the heat. What about the water? On
the water, same thing. We see that even less. I've had a few unfortunate experiences with it with some clientele, and it just is like anything. It can happen, and it happens in a blink of an eye. So we want to be careful with water. We want to make sure that those guys are supervised at all times. It's very easy to turn your head. You know, when we go to the lake, and this doggie's not been to the lake before, and you know, they got on the wrong side of the buoy, or on the wrong side of the dock, or whatever, and they panic and they get in trouble. Most dogs are very, very good at swimming, but you know, we just want to be cognizant of that. There are doggy life jackets, but even with that, that's telling us that you're going to put your doggy in the water. Please, 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 just pay attention to them. And what we see with that is we'll see sodium changes when they inhale all that water. And you know, we hear this with little kids where it may not happen for a period of time. And so we see something called non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. So the fluid on the lungs is not because of the heart, it's because of the water on the lungs that we've brought in, and it may be a number of minutes to hours before we start seeing those signs, and we can intervene. We have oxygen cages, and so those type of things that again, early noticing of those signs and getting them to us as soon as you can. So
about drinking the water. Could they, I mean, not only get enough, but what about the water itself? Is there anything we need to watch out for?
We want to be a little careful with that. You know, we know that there are certain coliforms and E. coli and even cyanobacteria that are in some of these lakes. And so if we have fresh water available to them, that will hopefully deter them from doing it. A little bit, maybe not such a big deal. Again, probably weight dependent. Okay. So a little guy, we want to stay away from that if we can. So good question.
A lot of great information. If you want more information, go ahead and contact the fabulous staff here at Beebout Veterinary Medical Center. Thanks for letting me come. Appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, stay with us next week as we bring you another edition of Pet Doc.